Good day to everyone. My name is Lebohang Matibela. It is my pleasure to welcome you at the Northwest University's Joint Gender and Language Awareness Week in 2020. As part of the transformation agenda of the university, the NWU hosts annual awareness weeks to create opportunities for inclusive conversations to explore current issues concerning race, gender, and language. Due to COVID-19 situation, we are hosting an online awareness week in 2020 that focuses on gender and language, and it is my pleasure to welcome you in the NWU home and the homes of our presenters. We want to thank our presenters up front. They shared their expertise with us by making homemade videos for their studies, from their studies and from their living rooms. We appreciate their willingness to share their expertise with us under less than ideal circumstances, and we adore the authenticity of their views, underscored by the very personal touch of the handmade quality of the videos. The topics that our presenters tackled and that we will discuss are hard-hitting. Our aim in 2020 was to trouble our past and to reimagine our future. Our focus this year is the current state of gender-based violence and the ongoing complex conversations about multilingualism in South Africa. Some of the contributions are unsettling and very controversial. As a higher education institution, it is our duty to create opportunities where these difficult and sometimes painful conversations can take place in a safe space. The audience will be able to contribute to the conversation after the presentations. We encourage multilingual contributions. A translator would monitor the chat and the Q&A functions and assist with translations where necessary. I want to make a plea to members of the audience who are, you are also invited to assist with the translations if you are able to do so. In this way, we will be helping each other. We request that all comments and replies be respectful as is fitting of conversations at a higher education institution. The contributions would be via the chat and the Q&A functions and will be in writing. We request that comments are concise and relevant to the topic at hand. We look forward to the engagement of the audience after the presentations. Now, ladies and gentlemen, some technical issues. Once you are logged in, you will see a small green button on the right-hand side of your screen. You click on this, you will see the chat facility. We would love to hear your comments and would love for you to keep the momentum going by putting your comments in the chat. Should you have any questions related to any of our speakers or presentations, please put your questions in the Q&A. Some presenters will be present during the sessions and some not. You must remember we have guests from all over the world. Some would be sleeping in their countries because it would be midnight. If you have any questions to the presenters who could not join us, we will send your questions to them via email after the session. You will also be able to upvote someone else's question to move that question up to the top. The hosts and coordinators would keep an eye on the prominent questions and respond to them. In order to make use of all the awesome features that this visual platform has to offer, we recommend that you use your laptop. If you have logged on with your mobile phone or tablet, you may not experience all these features, but don't worry. There is time to log on with your laptop in addition to that. We will share our recordings after the event. For optimal viewing, would like to suggest that you click on the full screen arrows, which is located in the top right hand corner. This will expand your view. Should you experience a drop in your connectivity, again, don't panic. This does happen. Just simply refresh your browser and you will be automatically logged back in. Welcome to the NW's Joint Gender and Language Awareness Week. Please sit back and enjoy the sessions with us.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to introduce myself. I'm Alison Kageld from the Law Faculty at the Northwest University. My teaching and research interests include jurisprudence and ethics. I think it's important to just briefly mention that the way that we've been thinking about gender in the past 50, 60 years has changed. Usually when we mention the word gender, we think about women, that is cisgendered women who were born identifying with the gender and sex that they were given. So we think about the struggle of women in relation to men and the patriarchal society. And this indeed the remnants of a very unequal society in relation to women still sits with us, and it's still necessary to have that feminist movement and to talk out against the patriarchal society. And as you know, the first wave of feminism dealt basically with the giving women opportunities and basic rights that men had that they did not have. The second wave of feminism dealt with women thinking very differently about sexuality, about their reproductive rights. So it was basically women standing up against an oppressive patriarchal society that didn't recognize them, and as well as how the economy of that society treated women as unequal in terms of the types of work that they would do, the types of employment opportunities they had, and the type of remuneration that they would get. However, as we've moved on, the way we think about gender is not just restricted to that male-female binary. And it's not just restricted to the feminist movement. So very often when we talk about gender issues, we think that it's restricted to the experiences of cisgendered women, but it's not. Issues around gender involve more than just that binary experience. So the legal instruments that exist in South Africa that provide protection on the basis of gender, whether it is cisgendered women or transgender persons or gender non-conforming persons, there are a few laws which I can go through very quickly. So firstly, there's the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. There's the preamble, which basically says that there's a commitment from the Constitution to move towards a more equal and socially just society. Section 9 of the Constitution expressly prohibits unfair discrimination on the basis of gender. And there are various other rights in the Constitution that would aid someone who's been discriminated on the basis of gender as well. This would include equality, dignity, expression, and so forth. We also have the Promotion of Equality and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act, which also expressly expressly prohibits unfair discrimination on the basis of gender. We have the Employment Equity Act, which prohibits unfair discrimination in the workplace on the basis of gender, and the Labor Relations Act, which stipulates that any dismissal that is based on gender is automatically unfair, as well as the Alteration of Sex Description and Status Act, which allows for people to change their gender. However, it's only from male to female or female to male, so it still operates within that gender binary and does not make provision for more than two genders. And there are also certain requirements that people have to adhere to such as hormone treatment or gender reassignment surgery, for example. The number of cases on the marginalization and unfair discrimination of cisgendered women there are many, which is a good thing and is progressive in the South African legal system, as this was necessary. However, the number of cases relating to transgender issues are less. This might be also as a result of the understanding of gender that people have as only relating to women and not transgender people. However, it's the recent case of Subramanian versus September has been seen as a good judgment because it speaks out about the rights of transgender people and also the importance of gender identity to a person. So we can just look at that briefly. Quickly, I'll give you the facts. So this case is about Jade September, a transgender woman who was a prisoner and was incarcerated in a male prison. She, however, was born male but identifies as a woman and wanted to express that gender within the prison by, for example, wearing long hair, by wearing makeup, wearing female underwear, and so forth, by being called on her female pronoun and so forth. And she argued that by not being allowed to do this within the prison, that she was discriminated against on the basis of the act which we had just mentioned, the Promotion of Equality and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act. So in the Equality Court, Judge Fortuin found in favor of Jade September and indeed said the following: "It is common cause that all people in our country, including the applicant, is entitled to their constitutionally enshrined human rights. Yet the applicant is not being afforded that recognition, protection, and respect. She is prevented from expressing her identity." So there's a clear recognition of the importance of gender identity and the existence of different types of genders, not just male and female. What is interesting, though, and this is where the work still needs to be, this is what still needs to be done in South African law, to my mind, is that the judge says this case is not about whether the binary model used in South Africa should be expanded to include a third gender, that is, transgender. This binary model is therefore unchallenged and still in force. This case is not only about whether the applicant should be allowed to undergo medical treatment in order to transition. The applicant remains a transgender woman who has not transitioned medically and is therefore still legally classified as a man. This is and will remain the position until she completed the process of gender reassignment. And that's the problem. And here I do believe that Judge Fortuin elucidated the problematic surrounding the rights of transgender people in South Africa. So on the one hand, the judge is saying, this is a transgender person who has rights, who needs to be treated in a certain way, who needs to be given certain liberties, but the legal system still operates within that binary, and you will still have to go through all of these steps to be fully regarded as a woman. And I think this case brings up some really interesting issues. Seems as if the judge is talking with two tongues. Even so, at the end of the day, Jade September was given certain liberties and was able to express herself in the way that she chooses to, which we can regard as a victory. But in general, I do just want to say in conclusion about the law. We did not have a lot of time to speak about this, but I think that the transformative aspirations of the Constitution and existing legislation provide mechanisms for protecting the rights of marginalized genders. There's laws, there's the Constitution, there's rights that can be used to protect certain groups. certain marginalized genders, not just which would include transgender people, but also marginalized women as well. So gender includes the struggles of many cisgender women in South Africa, but is not restricted to that. De Vos has noted that it might be useful to speak of gendered identity as a ground of discrimination rather than just gender. I agree with this, as it will be an explicit prohibition against gender identity, and that it doesn't, that we don't run the risk of forgetting and not seeing the plight of transgender people. So I do see that as a positive. Then what I want to say about society, what's been said in the judgment as well, is that society still operates within a gender binary system, which makes it difficult for all people to, for all genders to express themselves and be fully themselves. We still live in a very patriarchal society where a lot of women are still treated less than what they should be treated. And it's hoped that the law will influence the norms of society. Then lastly, words is law and law is words. In the movement towards gender equality, more words are needed, not just to liberate all genders, especially marginalized genders, and not just for the sake of making up words, but for the sake of empowering and protecting the rights of all genders, especially those who live on the margins of society. This is indeed the purpose of words, it's the purpose of the law. And so it's hoped that the law will in time catch up to the society and give that protection to people that they need.
Hallo, my naam is Benito Trollip. Tans bekleë ek die pos as Afrikaans navorser by die Suid-Afrikaanse Sentrum vir Digitale Taalhulpbronne, ook bekend as SADiLaR. Welkom by vandag se aanbieding. Ek deel graag my skyfies. Die titel van vandag se aanbieding is Tot watter mate maak Afrikaans as 'n amptelike taal in Suid-Afrika voorsiening om oor genderdiversiteit te praat. In vandag se kort bydra word 'n aantal verbandhoudende en oorvleelende gedagtes rakende gender en taal en meer spesifiek Afrikaans gedeel. Dit is nie moontlik om gegee die tydsbeperking by alles uit te kom nie, maar 'n paar aspekte wat wel aandag geniet is hierdie 3. Ons kyk eerstens na seksualiteit as 'n linguistiese maar ook 'n algemene taboe. Ons kyk na genderterme in Afrikaanse naslaanbronne en dan gee ek 'n samevatting en moontlike vooruitskouing vir wat hierdie gesprek verder behoort te word. So as 'n vrywaring moet ek dit so lank noem dat woorde wat in hierdie bespreking gebruik word om meer begrip en bewusmaking te skep. Weens die beperkte tyd kom alle woorde nie na vore nie, maar dit beteken nie dit bestaan nie of word nie gebruik nie. Okay. So dit is in dieselfde asem belangrik om te sê, taal, gender en seksualiteit is intense onderwerpe wat vir baie mense baie emosioneel raak en dit is ook reg so, maar dit beteken ons moet dit met die omsigtigheid benader en hierdie platform is juis daar geskep om gemakliker oor hierdie temas te praat. So, ons kyk in die eerste plek na Queen wat in 2014 'n oorsig gegee het van bronne tot op daai stadium wat wissel van antropologie, genderstudies, kultuurstudies en ook taalkundige studies oor die taalgebruik van persone wat in die LGBTQA+ groepering val. Aspekte soos uitspraak, woordeskat en frasering het veral aandag geniet soos wat dit doen in studies oor spesifieke spraakgemeenskappe. Mense kyk byvoorbeeld hoe 'n sekere klank uitgespreek word, watter tipe taalgebruik sekere groep mense gebruik. Maar sy meen, daar bestaan steeds 'n gaping, desnieteenstaande die studies, dat daar word nie aandag gegee aan taal wat aan 'n groter gemeenskap behoort eerder as individue nie. Haar stelling sluit aan by hierdie aanbieding, aangesien dit presies is waarna ek sou wou kyk in meer detail hoe Afrikaans in den brede voorsiening maak om oor genderdiversiteit te praat. Naas Queen het Ellen Burridge in 2006 gedeeltelik gekyk na die taboewaarde van seksualiteit en ook hoe daardie taboe uiting vind in taal en die feit dat iets soos die Bybel homoseksualiteit ten sterkste veroordeel het en dit gesien is as 'n afwyking om enige iets behalwe heteronormatief te wees. So hulle kyk ook na die geskiedenis van die betekenis van die woord queer as ook die letternaamwoord LGBT. Dit is by implikasie dus nie vreemd dat mense 'n weerstand het daarin om oor seksualiteit te praat nie en daarom ontwikkel daar nie taal daarvoor nie. So wat is die situasie in Afrikaans? Jana Liter in 'n onlangse onderhoud waarin sy gevra is spesifiek of Afrikaans enigsins voorsiening maak vir terme om na die spektrum van seksualiteit te verwys, sê sy dat helaas in Afrikaans gaan naslaanbronne jou nie so baie help nie, behalwe vir 'n onlangse Afrikaanse woordeboek, die Woordeboek van Afrikaans vandag, wat aanlyn beskikbaar is. Jana het verwys na 'n paar terme en hier doen ek dit ook, maar dit is nie almal nie, dit is nie alles wat beskikbaar is nie, dit is net ter illustrasie van die woorde wat in Afrikaans beskikbaar is. So, kom ek gaan deur die tabel eerstens, die woord is aseksueel, biseksueel, gay, genderneutraal, interseksueel, lesbies, LGBT, QIA+, moffie, queer en transgender. Nou dit is net alfabeties gerangskik en dis net ter illustrasie. Die naslaanbronne wat ingesluit is in die kolomme is ook nie alles wat beskikbaar in Afrikaans is nie, dit is ook net 'n paar. Die eerste een is die AWS, die Afrikaanse woordelys en spelreëls wat elke paar jaar hersien word. So 'n deel van die AWS het 'n woordelys in waar nuwe woorde ingesluit is nadat dit deur die Taalkommissie goedgekeur is. Die HAT is die handwoordeboek van die Afrikaanse taal. Die WAT is 'n uitgebreide, omvattende woordeboek van Afrikaans. Die WAV is die woordeboek vir Afrikaans vandag. Viva Corpus is 'n aanlyn hulpmiddel vir mense wat taalnavorsing doen. En dis 'n versameling van om en by die 225 miljoen Afrikaanse woorde uit verskillende bronne. So daar's tienertoneeltekste, daar's fiksietekste, daar is ook dele uit nuusberigte, nuusbulletins van webtuistes. So dit is 'n groot verskeidenheid Afrikaans wat daarin voorkom. Nou die blokke wat om die woorde getrek is geel, is gebruik om 'n woord te merk wat in een van die bronne voorkom en rooi vir al die bronne. Soos ons kan sien, as ons bo begin, aseksueel kom slegs in die WAT voor, biseksueel kom in al die bronne voor, gay kom ook in al die bronne, genderneutraal slegs in die woordeboek vir Afrikaans vandag en die asterisk by genderneutraal verwys na 'n interessante aspek is dat genderneutraal die enigste woord is wat in die nuwerwetse politieke woordeboek beskikbaar is of gelys is en dit is aanlyn beskikbaar die woordeboek. Maar ek het nog nie verder daarin gedelf om te sien waarom slegs die een daar is nie. Interseksueel kom in 3 van die 4 bronne voor, lesbies in al 4, LGBT QIA slegs in die woordeboek vir Afrikaans vandag. Moffie is interessant Want die enigste betekenis wat in die AWS vir moffie erken word, is 'n tipe handskoen. Nou die handskoen wat hierdie 4 vingers toemaak en die duim apart hou. Dis die een betekenis van moffie en dis die een wat die AWS erken. Queer word in 3 van die 4 bronne opgeneem en transgender in al 4. Nou, hoekom ek praat van 4 bronne tot by Viva Corpus. Die Viva Corpus gebruik ek om te kyk, kom dit in Afrikaans voor? Word dit gebruik of word dit net in hierdie boeke opgeneem? En dit is interessant dat as jy kyk na die frekwensies in die Viva Corpus, kom gay oor die 5000 keer voor. Okay, in 225 miljoen woorde is 5000 ook nie baie hoog nie, maar in vergelyking met hierdie woorde is 5000 baie hoog, want die naaste daarin is moffie, wat 311 keer voorkom, wat nie naaste by 5000 is nie. So dit is interessant, en dan laastens, as daar 'n W langs die ry voorkom, soos hier, dan beteken dit daar's 'n Afrikaanse Wikipedia blad vir daardie woord, wat ook 'n soort naslaanbron is vir baie mense, en dit is interessant om te sien dat nie al hierdie woorde daar is nie, en dit is ook die rede waarom LGBT gedeeltelik in hakkies is, want die Afrikaanse Wikipedia blad het net LGBT daar as 'n opsie. So, dit is in die eerste plek interessant om te wys, Afrikaans het die woorde, soos ek gesê, dis nie almal nie, maar dit is van die woorde, en dit kom neer op gebruik, en soos Jana in die onderhoud gesê het, solank jy stereotypes vermy, dan is die taal daar om gebruik te word en ontwikkel te word. So ek wil graag afsluit met 2 aanhalings uit onlangse stukke. Die een is deur Jana self, wat sy sê, deur ons taalgebruik te ontleed, daaroor na te dink, dit te bespreek, verhoog ons bewustheid van ongelykhede wat ons onbewustelik deur ons woordkeuse weerspieël, deur van veralgemenings en klisjées ontslae te raak, leer ons om ons beter uit te druk. Dit is 100% wat ek ook probeer sê het, en die laaste kort aanhaling van Roberto Kyle, in 'n stuk wat hy geskryf het na die moord op Suid-Afrikaanse danser Kevin Fortuin, is, deur taal te skep, bewapen ons onsself. Baie dankie.
To what extent does Afrikaans as an official South African language make provision for talking about gender diversity? Well, the Afrikaans language, like the majority of South African languages, is guilty, or perhaps has a shortcoming, of not embracing or talking about gender diversity. So in English, we would often use terms such as male and female, and that's what we've been accustomed to. Rarely, though, do we speak, especially in other languages now, of transgenders, gender-neutral people, non-binary, agender, pangender, and the likes. Now, again, I do believe that what we need to do is employ the space that we have in the teaching and learning space, and we need to open ourselves and embrace learning about gender diversity. So Afrikaans as a language itself cannot easily embrace that which it does not understand. So we therefore need to open up ourselves and learn and understand what these different terminologies speak about, or what they are all about. And only then can language, and in particular now the Afrikaans language, only then can it embrace terminology into, or these kind of terminologies into its space. To what extent can we create gender expression terminology in Afrikaans? We first have to deal with the kind of terminology or the language that we use to date when we describe different genders and sexual orientation of people. These terms include words such as morphies and manekifros. These words are not only found in the Afrikaans terminology, but they're also found in other South African languages. isiZulu-speaking people, for instance, would use terms such as istabane or inkonkoni. Now, these words are often used in a derogatory manner with the intention of fueling hatred and intolerance. To promote a culture of tolerance and to begin incorporate gender expressive terminology in Afrikaans would require us to use embracive terminologies. Now, for us in the teaching and the learning space, it would need us to open ourselves to learning. Queer gender expression is all about one, or how one expresses themselves in their gender as well as in their sexual orientation. This speaks to more of how one wears, or just more than how one wears their hair, or how they even dress. So until we can understand this through learning, only then can we begin to foster a queer gender expressive terminology and put this in our language space. Does the South African legal system reflect or adequately reflect the diversity of gender and protect such groups? If one is to consider the measures that were taken by the apartheid government in fostering intolerance and indifference for different genders and sexual orientation, I'm already thinking of the Sexual Immoralities Act. One then can positively begin to say that the current legal system has taken great stride to foster diversity of gender and to protect it. Our Constitution, for instance, embraces such diversity. Section 9 states that no one may be discriminated against based on more grounds, including their gender as well as their sexual orientation. This provision has seen itself permeate to legislation that deals with a myriad of issues that speak to social relations. I'm thinking, for instance, our labor relations, our education system, and even issues of customary relations. If one, for instance, looks at cases such as Bear versus Khayelitsha Magistrate, which abolished the rule of male primogeniture. Further, if one is to read Section 9 with Section 7, 2, and 8, 1 of our Constitution, it will then tell us that powerful organs of state are then employed again by the same Constitution to ensure that they respect, they protect, they promote, and they fulfill the rights in the Constitution, in this instance, Section 9 itself. I am, however, hesitant, even as a law student, to say that the law can do more in this regard. Perhaps what is needed now is for us to see the optimal use of the current legal system that we have. Basically, what I'm thinking is that we need not flog or enact more laws that one could even say is trying to police behavior, but we need to see the optimal use of that which we have.